Part 30. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 291. Chapter 291 Chapter 291 Catching Big Fish. The man's fall caused everyone present to panic, and their eyes were fixed on the person who did it. Deputy Director Wang glanced indifferently at the person lying on the ground. He looked bloodthirsty and gloomy. Anyone else among you who has an opinion or wants to push forward can put it forward. Everyone looked at me and I looked at you. No one dared to speak this time. It was more out of fear of Deputy Director Wang. A round of applause attracted everyone's attention. Wen Yuru's face was covered by a tie and her eyes were covered. The man next to her clapped with one hand and clapped his hands with a sneer on his thin lips. Deputy Director Wang, you are really good at it. Anyone who disobeys will be killed directly. You are indeed a courageous person. I admire you. Such sarcastic words have already numbed Deputy Director Wang. He turned to the north and south with a cold face. You already know my trump cards. Do I have the confidence to negotiate with you now? Of course, Deputy Director Wang, what terms do you want to negotiate with me? Nanbei leaned on the table and chair and looked at him with a half-smiling expression. I want you to help me achieve Wen Runian's position. The desire in Deputy Director Wang's eyes could not be concealed no matter what. Nanbei curled his thin lips and asked him, Deputy Director Wang, are you sure your things can still be used? Of course, I am very sure that I have the detonator in my hand. Deputy Director Wang held the thing in his hand confidently. There was another sound, and a big hole appeared in Deputy Director Wang's hand, and the detonator in his hand was shattered. Deputy Director Wang, your hope is gone now, arrest the person. Nanbei waved his hands, and the men with weapons came up and controlled Deputy Director Wang. Deputy Director Wang stood straight, with blood still dripping from his palms. Nanbei, do you really think you won? Deputy Director Wang, I will kill the person behind you, Nanbei said coldly. Young man, although I lost to you, don't be too confident. He hasn't made a move yet, ha 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 ha. Deputy Director Wang laughed and was taken away crazily. Deputy Director Wang was taken away, and those who stayed behind felt insecure and looked at the north and south with luck in their hearts. If you want people like Deputy Director Wang, I won't stop you. If you don't want people like Deputy Director Wang, leave now. I won't pursue them. Just like the Emperor. The North and the South issued an amnesty order. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally crowded room suddenly became spacious. Wen Yuru couldn't believe that he just let those people go and looked at the North and South. Nanbei pinched the flesh on his waist and said, I still need to use them to catch big fish, so don't worry as I'm here. Wen Yuru. This man coaxed him like this every time, but later on, he ran out of her reach. Believe me, I really won't leave this time, I won't lie to you, Nanbei explained, seeing the disbelief in her eyes. Wen Yuru broke away from his hand and walked to the door alone, coldly, whether you leave or not has nothing to do with me. We are finished. North and South. Keep an eye on her, I'm going to pick up my little girl, Fu Jianxiu said calmly as he passed by the two of them. Boss Fu, you can't leave now. You have to help me keep an eye on some people. The June team has not finished handling it yet. Don't leave any further trouble. Nanbei stopped him. Fu Jianxiu frowned and glanced at the watch on his hand. 8 hours. That's enough, thank you, Boss Fu. North and South disappeared like a gust of wind. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 292. Chapter 292 Chapter 292 Liquor Chocolate. Tengtishan. John was sitting in her room when she was young, flipping through an old and yellowed newspaper. The content on it was about the car accident that year. Wang Quifan found the newspaper for her. It had been so long that she almost used it to start a fire. Zhang Xiao looked at the contents of the newspaper. There were pictures of a car accident. The front of the car had been completely deformed. The man's head was lying on the steering wheel, and a woman was sitting in the passenger seat. The photo was taken 10 years ago. The pixels are not high and you can't clearly see the appearance of the people on it. The cause of the car accident was that the car skidded in the snow. Although the picture in the newspaper is not very clear, the anti-skid on the wheels, the chain, can still be seen clearly. From this point alone, it is unconvincing. How can anyone believe it? Even though she knew from the beginning that it was done by an enemy, she was still stunned by this blatant behavior. As expected, far away from Ruchin, it was easy for people to do whatever they wanted. After reading the contents of the newspaper, Zhang Xiaoxiao put on his coat and went downstairs to find Wang Qifen. "Aunt Wang, does the old man Li you mentioned live halfway up the mountain?" Wang Qifen had just finished cleaning up the kitchen. His hands were still dripping with water. He wiped his hands with a towel and looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao. "Why are you looking for him?" "Well, I need his help with something," Zhang Xiao replied. Wang Qifen shook his head to stop her. "There's a snowstorm tonight, so you'd better not go out. If old man Li goes to patrol the mountains, you won't be able to find him. Do you want to patrol the mountains even in a snowstorm? He has lived in this mountain for decades and is used to snowstorms and other such things. He will find a cave to hide," Wang Qifen explained. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Wang Qifen disappointedly. "Aunt Wang, do you know when he will be home at a fixed time?" "I know, he is at home every Tuesday. It happens to be Tuesday tomorrow. I will take you to find him." Wang Qifen took Zhang Xi's hand and placed chocolates in her palm. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the wine-filled chocolate in his palm and glanced at her with big eyes in confusion. Wang Qifen just smiled and said, "This brand of wine-filled chocolate is delicious. Try it." "Thank you, Aunt Wang." Zhang Xiao returned to his room, peeled off the wine-filled chocolate and put it into his mouth, licked the sweet outer skin, and then bit it gently with his teeth. The crispy chocolate was broken, and the wine wrapped inside was instantly filling the entire mouth. The aroma of wine and chocolate make people have endless aftertaste. This smell brought out the subconscious in her body. Zhang Xiaoxiao's mind instantly became confused, and her body slowly began to lose control. She stood up and searched for familiarity in the room. Mo Zhangxiang heard the noise in the room and ran over to see. Zhang Xiaoxi had turned the whole room into a mess. What are you looking for?" Mo Zhangxiang's inquiry attracted Zhang Xiao's eyes. When she saw Mo Zhangxiang, she ran over and hugged Mo Zhangxiang. She looked at her with tears in her eyes, aggrieved, and cried, "Sister, my doll is missing. I can't find it. What should I do? It was given to me by my father." Mo Zhangxiang's black pupils shrank slightly, and he stared at Zhang Xiaoxi until his eyes were full of worry and surprise. The surprise was because Zhang Xiaoxiao finally called her sister, but the worry was that she behaved like a child. So weird. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 293. Chapter 293. Chapter 293. Children aged 7 or 8. "Xiao Xiao, what's wrong with you?" Mo Zhangxiang asked cautiously. Zhang Xiaoxiao pouted, just like a 7 or 8-year-old child, with tears of grievance all over his face. "Sister, doll, the doll my father bought for me is missing. It was my favorite. The doll, woo woo woo." Mo Zhangxiang. "Sister, help me find it quickly. Dad said he would take us to build a snowman today. I want to bring my doll and my favorite chocolate." Zhang Xiaoxiao grabbed the corner of Mo Zhangxiang's clothes with his little hands. Mo Zhangxiang's eyes slowly turned red. What Zhang Xiao said now was exactly the same as before the car accident. It was such a happy day. Dad was coming back and said he would take them to ski and build snowmen. The two sisters were excited. After a long wait, they finally waited until their father came back. Their family of four got in the car, but they didn't expect that this would be their last reunion. From then on, they would no longer have their parents. When you were little, your baby mother had already put it in the car for you. Mo Jiangxiang's eyes were red and he coaxed her with a gentle voice. Jiang Xiao finally stopped crying and looked at her with big innocent eyes, full of belief. Sister, has Dad come back? He is hiding and wants us to find her, right? Mo Jiangxiang rubbed the top of her hair and smiled softly. Dad said that only a sleeping child can find him. If you open your eyes now, you can't find Dad. Then I'll go to bed right away, so that Daddy can show up earlier. Jiang Xiao ran back to his bed unsteadily, then lay down and covered his head with the quilt. Sister, I fell asleep, please let go. Dad, come out. Children who are asleep cannot talk. Mo Jiangxiang continued to lie to her. Jiang Xiao believed it, and nervously revealed a pair of dark eyes from under the quilt. Sister, I'm going to sleep right away. Ask Dad to come out quickly. Okay, as long as I see you sleeping obediently, I will call Daddy to pick you up. Mo Jiangxiang looked at her with soft eyes. Jiang Xiao glanced at Mo Jiangxiang, then closed his eyes tightly, and fell asleep with his head feeling groggy. Mo Jiangxiang stayed in her room for half an hour. After making sure she was asleep, he called Luo Yi. Jiang Xiao was a little worried when this happened suddenly. Luo Yi, who was extremely busy, immediately stopped what he was doing when he received a call from Mo Jiangxiang and answered, "What's wrong with the hour?" Mo Jiangxiang. She didn't say anything yet. This subconscious reaction was simply, "Master, does Xiao Xiao behave strangely after she drinks?" Mo Jiangxiang asked because he smelled the taste of alcohol in Jiang Xiao's mouth. "Did you give her a drink?" Luo Yi asked her with a frown. "No, she seems to have eaten a wine-filled chocolate." Mo Jiangxiang's eyes stayed on the chocolate packaging on the ground. "Did she do anything strange?" Luo Yi asked. "Well, you talk like a child of several years old. I'm very worried. I wonder if this has happened before." Mo Jiangxiang touched Jiang Xiao's forehead with his hand to see if she had a fever or any discomfort. The place. After Luo Yi heard this, he started to pack up the things on the table and walked out. "Observe her first. If there is anything wrong with her, take her back to Ruchen." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 294. Chapter 294. Chapter 294. Uncle Fu, this big scumbag. Master, has this happened before? When I was a child, Mo Jiangxiang was worried about Jiang Xiao. Only I will know this after I ask the fifth master. Just keep an eye on it. After Luo Yi explained, he hung up the phone and trotted over to where Fu Jianxi worked. Everything can be delayed, even the matters concerning the little ancestor Jiang Xiao can be delayed. If something goes wrong, everyone will not have a good life. Chu Hanyu had just come out of the airport. She crossed her cold hands across her chest and shivered. The temperature difference between Chengdu and Ruchen was not that big. She bought a down jacket at the airport and put it on to help her recover. Take out your mobile phone and contact Luo Yi. Luo Yi, where are you? In Rongcheng, Nayuniu. What do you want to do when you are young? Luo Yi frowned lightly. The school has an exam, give her the test papers. Where is she? In Rongcheng, Chu Han said eloquently. She didn't tell him that she was in Rongcheng now, otherwise Luo Yi would definitely not tell him that Jiang Xiao was there. Luo Yi naturally didn't think much about it. He thought it was about studying, so he told her truthfully, "I was at Tengtu Mountain in Rongcheng when I was young. I'll be back in 2 days." "Well, okay, I'll give her the test paper when she comes back." Chu Hanyu hung up the phone and was about to call a taxi on the roadside and go straight to Tengtu Mountain. Before she could take action, She was pulled into a man's arms. The man's coat wrapped her tightly, and a mellow voice sounded above her head, "I only asked about the approximate location. Are you going to Tengtu Mountain?" Chu Hanyu raised her head, looking at the man above her with wide eyes, grinning. "Chen Biking, why are you here?" "I came to Chengdu to discuss business. When I looked at my back, I looked like you. When I heard you calling, I knew it was you." Chen Biking held her cold red hands and gave her warmth. Chu Hanyu was afraid of the cold, so she didn't leave his arms and talked to him. "Do you know where you were at Tengtu Mountain when you were a kid? Are you looking for her to tell her about the engagement between Fujinexiu and Wenyuaru?" Chen Biking picked him up and walked to his car ahead. Chu Hanyu hugged his waist, fearing that he would fall. "I must have to tell Xiao Xiao. Uncle Fuwu is such a scumbag." "How do you know Fujinexiu is a scumbag?" Chen Biking covered her head with clothes, and a cold wind happened to blow over. Chu Hanyu replied in a loud voice, "He is already engaged to another woman, so he is not a scumbag. You see, he secretly deceived him into coming to Rongcheng when he was a child." Chen Biking carried her into the car and sat next to her. "Na Yuniu, don't just take things at face value. Fujinexiu is sincere to Zhang Ziashi. You don't know Uncle Fuwu. How do you know what Uncle Fuwu thinks?" Chu Hanyu looked at him dissatisfied. Chen Biking took off his glasses and looked at her tenderly in his narrow red phoenix eyes. "Na Yuniu, men know men best, and Ruchin has not been in peace recently." "What does it mean that there is no peace in Ruchin?" Chu Hanyu's eyes were full of doubts. "I'm not sure about political matters." "Have you eaten yet?" Chen Biking changed the topic. Chu Hanyu touched his stomach and seemed to be really hungry. "I'm hungry. Let's find a mall to eat. I'll buy some thick clothes and shoes to go to Tengtu Mountain." As soon as Chu Hanyu finished speaking, the car turned around and went to the mall. Chu Hanyu ordered a dumpling in the mall and had already put on the newly bought clothes. "Chen Biking, I agreed that you would take me up the mountain later." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 295. Chapter 295. Chapter 295. Anger burning in the heart. "Well, I don't trust you if you go alone." Chen Biking helped her wipe the sweat from her forehead. Chu Hanyu was not used to him being like this, so she hid subconsciously, picked up the restaurant paper and wiped it herself. She hugged him when they left the airport just now because she was afraid of the cold. There happened to be a heater, so she didn't hide away. Now they are so close. Not quite suitable. Chen Biking squinted his eyes and was not in a hurry. He is the most patient. It doesn't matter if he takes his time with what he likes. I will stay in Chengdu for 5 days. If you need anything, you can call me. Chu Hanyu swallowed the dumpling in his mouth and answered him, "Okay." "Do you need me to pick up the phone for you?" Chen Biking looked at the phone next to her hand, which showed N Xiaoxuan's name. Chu Hanyu frowned lightly, put down her chopsticks, and answered the phone with an indifferent tone. "What's the matter?" "Na Yuniu, where are you?" And Nangxuan pressed his temple with a headache. He had been under high pressure for the past 2 days. When Runian was injured, in order to suppress those forces, they basically didn't sleep a wink. Now they finally found time to have a chance to fight. Call the little girl and ask her what she is doing. What Chu Hanyu hates the most is in Nangxuan's tone, as if he is being monitored. "I'm at home, is there anything wrong?" "It's okay, don't run around recently and be good." Ruchin was not safe, and he was still worried about the little girl's safety. "I know, I'll die if nothing happens." Chu Hanyu poked the dumplings in the bowl. "Well, I'll go find you in 2 days and pick you up to play with." And Nangxuan was about to hang up the phone when he heard a male voice that did not belong to Chu Hanyu. "Young master, they're urging a meeting over there." And Nangxuan's dark eyes darkened, and his handsome face became gloomy on the spot. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a cold voice, "Na Yuniu, where are you? Tell the truth." I'm with Chen Biking, why do I need to report to you? Chu Hanyu answered him in a bad tone. And Nangxuan's temples were beating suddenly. The little girl was starting to lie now. She really fell in love with that man. A nameless anger burned in her heart. Nayuniu, come to my company within an hour, or I will arrange someone to invite you come. Chu Hanyu hung up the phone with a cold face. All the good mood just now was ruined and she stopped eating dumplings. Chen Biking, tell me your address when you were young. I will go find her myself. You go and do your own things first. Chen Biking picked up his coat and said to her, I promised to give it to you, let's go. But what should I do about your matter? Chu Hanyu followed him. It's not an important matter. I can solve it when I come back. I would be worried if I didn't send you there, Chen Biking said. Chu Hanyu's face turned slightly red, and the way Lu Yan looked at Chen Biking was unnatural. Women would be tempted when hearing such words, so she comforted herself in her heart, Chen Biking, thank you. Rather than thank you, I hope you won't reject me so much. Chen Biking smiled softly. Chu Hanyu said. What I like is an Nangxuan. How can someone who has loved her for so many years just let it go? If it is really so easy to let go, it wouldn't be called love. Chen Biking, I'm sorry. Chu Hanyu held back his words for a long time. Chen Biking stopped, with a slight smile on his handsome face, I'll wait for the day you let go. Chu Hanyu said. She was not sure that she would ever let go. When that day came, how painful it would be. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 296. Chapter 296. Chapter 296. I don't trust you to go up on your own. Chen Biking drove Chu Hanyu to Tengtu Mountain. As soon as the car reached the foot of the mountain, he was stopped by the mountain guard, saying that the mountain had been closed and no one was allowed to enter the mountain. Uncle, is there any other way to go up the mountain? My friend is on the mountain and I need to see her for something, Chu Hanyu asked her uncle while looking at the white snow-capped mountains. Uncle Xiaoyama shook his head, girl, there is no other way. You have to wait until the snow comes. I can't let you in now. If something happens, I will be guilty. Chu Hanyu's little face was frowning. If Uncle Fu Wu gets married to Wen Yuru in 2 days, what will happen when he is young? Uncle, I'll go up on foot by myself. If something happens, it has nothing to do with you. Just let me go. Is it okay to go up? No, girl, I can't let you in, go back quickly. Seeing that he couldn't explain it to her, the uncle said to Chen Biking, who was behind her, young man, please advise your girlfriend to take her back quickly. Chu Hanyu. Chen Biking nodded, stepped forward and pulled Chu Hanyu, Nayuniu, let's go back first, don't embarrass uncle. Chen Biking, you know I'm just here to find you if in a few days. I know, get in the car first. Chen Biking pulled her into the car, turned the car around, and drove back. Chu Hanyu sat in the passenger seat, stared at Chen Biking, and said seriously, Chen Biking, I want to go up the mountain. I know. I saw a road up the mountain on the way here. I will take you up there. Chen Biking answered her. Chu Hanyu looked at Chen Biking's soft profile. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. There were complicated emotions in her eyes. She thought he was taking her back. Nayuni, get out of the car. Chen Biking had already parked the car, carrying a pair of shoulder bags on his shoulders, and opened the door for her. Chu Hanyu looked at him with confused eyes. Chen Biking, what are you doing? Chen Biking locked the car door, took her hand, and walked up the mountain. I'll go up the mountain with you. I don't trust you going up by yourself. Chu Hanyu's eyes fell on the hand holding hers. At that moment, his heart thumped in small waves, and his pink lips slightly opened. Chen Biking, don't you still have something to do? The assistant will take care of it. Chen Biking held her hand and walked carefully on the mountain road. Chu Hanyu's thickly curled eyelashes trembled and she followed him silently. Ruchin. Mr. An, Miss Chu got off the plane in Rongcheng an hour ago. Ji Yan reported the news to An Nangsuan. An Nangsuan pressed his temples with a headache. Is Chen Biking also in Rongcheng? Yes, Chen Biking took over the Shen family project. Ji Yan replied. I understand. Have you booked your flight to Chengdu? And Nangsuan signed the last document and stood up with bloodshot eyes. Mr. An, I don't understand. Ji Yan followed him and asked, hoping for his help to resolve the doubts. What don't you understand? You obviously don't like Miss Chu. Isn't it just right for her to be with Chen Biking? Ji Yan really didn't understand what he was doing during this time. And Nangsuan frowned, and Danfan stared at Ji Yan sharply. What kind of person is Chen Biking? He is worthy of Niu Niu. Mr. An, although Chen Biking's methods are not very good, he is indeed a promising young man, Ji Yan said matter-of-factly. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 297. Chapter 297. Chapter 297. Are you going on a date during this meal? In his opinion, Chen Biking's strength was comparable to those of their masters, so Chu Hanyu followed him, which in his opinion was a good match. And Nangsuan's face was gloomy, his cold eyes were staring at Ji Yan, and his voice was cold. Ji Yan, when did you become blind? Your ability to see people is getting worse and worse. Ji Yan looked at his boss in confusion. He was not blind. Chen Biking is indeed pretty good. The company's development in the past few years has ranked among the top 10. The top 5 are occupied by a few of them, so he had to argue with his boss. Mr. An, what projects has Chen Biking's company done in these years? I can show it to you, it's really good. And Nangsuan's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Ji Yan, the company will pay for it, so you can go for a physical examination when you have time, especially your eyes. Ji Yan. Halfway up Tengtu Mountain, Chu Hanyu was lying on Chen Biking's back, his little face covered tightly, even his eyeballs were not exposed. Chen Biking, am I very heavy? If you can't carry it, I will just come down and walk. Chen Biking's arms wrapped around her powerfully, letting her lie smoothly on his back. It's not heavy. Do your feet still hurt? Well, Chen Biking, is your face still bleeding? Chu Hanyu asked worriedly. If she hadn't slipped and Chen Biking used his body to protect her, she might not have simply sprained her foot. No, Chen Biking's gold-rimmed glasses were damaged, so he didn't wear them. His long, narrow, and dangerous eyes like wolves were exposed, and there were several wounds on his face, making this man look extremely evil. Chu Hanyu tightened her arms around his neck, feeling very guilty. Chen Biking, I'll treat you to dinner when you get back. If this meal is a date, then I will be even happier. Chen Biking's mouth slightly raised. Chu Hanyu pursed his thin lips and was silent for a while before replying, okay. Chen Biking's smile deepened, and his steps carrying her up the mountain became brisker. Rongcheng. Luo Yi's eyelids jumped hard when he received An Nangsuan's call. Second young master, you must not let the young lady know. I have arrived in Chengdu. I'm not sure if Niu Niu has seen her. An Nangsuan got off the plane without stopping and got in the car to go to Tengtu Mountain. Luo Yi almost cried, Second master, you must stop it. If the young lady knows that fifth master is engaged to Miss Wen, something will happen. I know, don't howl there. And Nangsuan was given a headache by Luo Yu Hao. Second master, please take good care of your little girl. If these two little ancestors make trouble together, it will turn Ruchin upside down. Luo Yi thought of the two little ancestors who caused trouble together in the past. He went, it's extremely troublesome to deal with. And Nangsuan frowned and listened to the phone, feeling inexplicably irritated. give me back my little girl. She has almost become someone else's. Stop howling and go tell the boss about the situation. Luo Yi. He almost forgot to sue the fifth master. Luo Yi hurriedly ran to find Fu Jianxiu, but the scene seemed not suitable for talking, so he could only stand anxiously at the door. When Runian turned pale as he spoke to Fu Jianxiu, did Deputy Director Wang say anything? No, you have already guessed the person behind him. Fu Jianxiu looked at the person lying on the bed with an expression unchanged. When Runian narrowed his cold eyes and admitted what he said, you have sacrificed a lot this time. North and South have already compensated me, Fu Jianxiu replied. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 298. Chapter 298. Chapter 298 Hours, listen to me first. When Runian twitched the corners of his pale lips and said, that boy from Nanbei has a deep affection for you. Are you? Luo Yi, please come in. Luo Yi, who was standing outside the door, reacted and quickly went in. President, are you awake? Well, don't you have something to tell Chenqiu? When Runian looked at him and said. Luo Yi glanced at Fu Jianxiu subconsciously. Fu Jianxiu nodded. Luo Yi immediately said, Fifth Master, Miss Chu went to Tengtu Mountain to find a young lady. The news of your engagement to Miss Wen will be announced soon, known by the little lady. As soon as Luo Yi finished speaking, a gust of wind drifted in front of him. When he realized that there was Fu Jianxiu's figure in the room, Luo Yi wanted to follow him, but there was another person he couldn't afford to offend. President, I will follow the fifth master first. Ye Wen Runian nodded. Luo Yi followed Fu Jianxiu's footsteps without stopping. Tengtishan. Chu Hanyu arrived at the villa where Zhang Xiaoxi lived. When he saw Zhang Xiaoxi, he ran up and hugged her. Xiao Xiao, I finally see you. Zhang Shi. When I was young, I even sprained my foot because of you, Chu Hanyu said pitifully. Zhang Xiao helped her sit down, his eyes falling on her swollen ankle. I'll find you some medicinal wine to rub it. Before she left, she saw Chen Baiking coming over with medicinal wine, squatting down, putting Chu Hanyu's feet on her thighs, taking off his socks, applying medicinal wine on his palms, rubbing them to warm them, and rubbing Chu Hanyu's red and swollen ankles. Go up and ask softly, does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Chu Hanyu's eyes were focused on Zhang Xiaoxi. Don't leave yet, Xiao Xiao, I have something to tell you. What are you saying? Zhang Xiao looked at her doubtfully. Xiao Xiao, come with me, I have something to tell you. Mo Zhang Xiang stood at the top of the stairs and called Zhang Xiao. Zhang Xiao Xiao. What's wrong with everyone? Why do they have something to say to her? Chu Hanyu said, when you are young, listen to me first. Mo Zhang Xiang, when you are young, listen to me first. Zhang Shi. Chu Hanyu knew that Mo Zhang Xiang was now Fu Jianxiu's man, so he told him in advance, when I was young, Fu Wushu and Wen Yueru were engaged, and the whole country knew about it. When Zhang Xiaoxiao heard Chu Hanyu's words, his head suddenly went blank, his little face was bloodless, and his two thin lips seemed to be stuck together. He couldn't make a sound for a long time. Hanyu, what did you say? I said, Uncle Fu Wu is engaged to Wen Yueru. Uncle Fu, this big scumbag, deceived you into this place where no one can shit, just to hide it from you. Chu Hanyu angrily helped Zhang Xiaoxiao accuse Fu Jianxiu. Zhang Shi's face was pale and tense, and his heart felt as if it was being squeezed tightly. He felt that every breath was painful, and he pretended not to care. He put on a smile that was uglier than crying. Uncle Wu, isn't it normal to get engaged to Wen Yueru? It's a normal thing, he's obviously, Before Chu Hanyu could finish her angrily words, the pain in her feet attracted her attention. Looking at Chen Baiking with tears in his eyes, it hurts. Chen Baiking looked at her with soft eyes, and the movements of his hands were as gentle as if he had not used gravity at all just now. and he answered her, "Okay. Hanyu, I'm a little sleepy. Let's go to bed first. If you have anything to do, go to Aunt Wang. She will arrange your accommodation." Zhang Xiao almost ran away and went upstairs. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 299. Chapter 299. Chapter 299. I want to be quiet. Our Chu Hanyu called her while looking at her back. Zhang Xiao did not look back. Chu Hanyu was worried and wanted to follow her. Chen Baiking held her ankle and said, "She definitely wants to stay by herself now. Give her some time." "But you can go up later," Chen Baiking told her. "Miss Chu, since you knew that Xiao was unhappy, you shouldn't have told her just now. The fifth master asked me to bring her here just to hide this matter." Mo Zhangxiang stared at Chu Hanyu with an ugly expression. Chu Hanyu stared at the face that was exactly the same as Zhang Xiaoxi's, and sneered, "Miss Mo, you are now Uncle Fu Wu, so of course you are helping Uncle Fu speak. Xiao Xiao is my friend, and of course I want her to know. Don't be a fool. You are a fool, and you obviously saved me when you were young, and you have no sense of gratitude at all. You have no idea how much Mr. Fu likes Xiao Xiao. I care about Xiao more than anyone else, but I don't agree with your approach," Mo Zhangxiang said with jealousy. "I don't know, I grew up with him when I was young, and I know what's going on between them better than anyone else," Chu Hanyu argued with Mo Zhangxiang with a blush on his face. Mo Zhangxiang snorted coldly, stopped talking to her and went upstairs. Chu Han pointed at Mo Zhangxiang's leaving figure with a venomous tone. "Chen Baiking, did you see that he spent 10 million an hour to buy such a white-eyed wolf?" "Well, don't be angry, it's not worth making yourself so angry," Chen Baiking comforted her. Upstairs. Zhang Xiao held the phone in his arms, his fingers still pressing the phone number that he knew by heart. His heart was pounding and painful, and it was extremely uncomfortable. Fu Chenxiao and Wen Yuru were engaged. They were engaged, and they deliberately asked Mo Zhangxiang to bring her to Tengtishan. There was no signal and they could not receive news from the outside. He really likes Wen Yuru. Why does he say those sweet words to himself, saying that he only likes her? They are all lies. Just like what her roommate in college said, men's words are all lies. Don't believe in ghosts. Don't believe in men's words. Open your mouth. The more Zhang Shishi thought about it, the sadder and angrier he became. He pressed a number that he knew by heart. No one answered the phone after it rang for a long time. Zhang Xiaoxiao threw the phone to the ground angrily and aggrieved, and the golden beans in his eyes flashed, falling down one by one. "Woo woo woo woo. When I was young, I am my sister. If you open the door, I can explain it to you. Things are not what you think. The fifth master did not betray you." Mo Zhangxiang knocked on the door worriedly. Zhang Xiao cried sadly alone in the room. She covered her ears and didn't want to listen to her. In her opinion, Mo Zhangxiang and Fu Chenxiao were in the same group. "Child, you believe me. My sister knows how much Fu Chenxiao loves him. She has seen it before. She will not lie to you." Mo Zhangxiang was very anxious when he saw that she had no reaction. "Xiao Xiao, could you please open the door? Don't you want to know about your parents? I'll tell you." Mo Zhangxiang was already running around anxiously. "I don't want to know, I want to be quiet, please go," Zhang Xiao said to the door in a hoarse voice. Mo Zhangxiang saw that she was determined not to open the door, so he hurried back to his room and contacted Luo Yi, but no matter how hard he called, he couldn't get through. Unable to contact her, she had no choice but to send a text message. After sending the text message, she returned to Zhang Shishi's door and said, "Xiao Shi, The situation in Ruchin is complicated. The engagement between Master Wu and Miss Wen was an emergency. I definitely didn't mean to betray you. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 300. Chapter 300. Chapter 300. What happens to me has nothing to do with you. Mo Zhangxiang stayed at Zhang Shishi's door from daytime to dawn, but Zhang Shishi didn't come out. This frightened Chu Hanyu. He was helped by Chen Baiking to limp upstairs and knocked on the door worriedly. When I was little, open the door. Haven't you always wanted to escape from Uncle Fu Wu? Isn't it just right that he is engaged to Wen Yuru this time? We can go together. We will never come back when we study abroad. There are a lot of handsome people abroad, and they will we choose. After Chu Hanyu finished speaking, she put her ear to the door to listen for the movement inside. After almost 5 minutes, there was no movement inside. She became anxious and said to Chen Baiking next to her, "Help me open the door." Chen Baiking held her hand and shook his head gently. Whether she wants to open the door or not means that she wants to be alone for a while now, and we shouldn't disturb her. But she's been in there for so long she won't do anything stupid, right? Chu Hanyu's eyes turned red with worry. Mo Zhangxiang, who was on the side, heard this assumption made by Chu Hanyu and was so anxious that he started to knock on the door regardless. Her sister, her only sister, if something happens under her nose again, she would never forgive her. My own. Mo Zhangxiang was weak, so he knocked on the door for a while but nothing happened. He looked around and finally stopped at the stool next to him. He went over, picked up the stool and smashed the door lock. With the auxiliary tool, Mo Zhangxiang opened the door in 2 clicks. When he entered, he saw Zhang Xiaoxiao sitting on the balcony with his hands and knees. There was a body with a landline phone on the ground. Just looking at the back, you can feel the loneliness and sadness. Mo Zhangxiang carefully and slowly approached Zhang Xiaoxiao. When he got close to her, he felt a cold wind. After a closer look, he realized that Zhang Xiaoxiao had opened the window a little and blocked the gap with her body. Now what kind of weather is it in Tengtu Mountain? It's dozens of degrees below zero. She is abusing herself. Mo Zhangxiang went up without thinking and took Zhang Xiaoxiao down from the window sill. His voice was full of blame and distress. "Xiaoxia, you are crazy. Look, your hands are frozen and your whole body is cold. Do you want to freeze yourself to death?" Zhang Xiao's round eyes lacked the aura of the past, his face was red from the cold, and his lips were purple from the cold. He broke away from Mo Zhangxiang's hand and said indifferently, "What happens to me has nothing to do with you." Mo Zhangxiang's face froze, and he silently and stubbornly threw Zhang Xiaoxiao into bed. "I can't watch you torture yourself. I have to take care of you when I see you torture yourself." Zhang Xiao stood up from the bed suddenly and stared at her coldly. "I said you don't need to worry about it. Don't you understand human language? Zhang Xiaoxiao, I don't want to quarrel with you. You are very cold now. Do you want to catch a cold?" Mo Zhangxiang put the quilt on her body. Zhang Xiao just refused to cooperate. Chu Hanyu didn't know what happened between them, but he couldn't help watching Zhang Xiaoxiao self-torture, so he stepped forward to persuade her. "Xiaoxiao, we can't treat our bodies badly, it's not worth it. Can you all go out?" Zhang Xiao shouted in a broken voice. "Our." Chu Hanyu and Mo Zhangxiang called Zhang Xiaoxi at the same time. Her look was really worrying, and they didn't dare to leave, but they didn't dare to anger her either. Later, it was Wang Qifen who took them out. "Just give her time to calm down." Before Wang Qifen took them away, he locked the window to prevent her from blowing cold wind, and then went downstairs to make soup. End of this chapter.